Hello everybody and welcome along to this edition of the Rebel White Ball. We're better than to start by congratulating the new management of the Cork senior football team. Over the past couple of weeks, the 5-man management committee, I suppose, that were put in place to select the new group have finally delivered, and white smoke emitted yesterday evening from the Páirc Uí Chaoimh chimneys when it was announced that Keith Ricken was to be the new team manager. Some of you will know that Keith, a proud St. Vincent's man, has a lot of success at underage. He's been coaching for a long number of years. He's employed in the Munster Technological University, MTU as it is now called, been involved there in promoting Gaelic games and involved with a lot of teams in there. And then of course latterly he got involved with the Cork under-21 teams, winning All Ireland with them. And once he threw his name into the ring, it was considered he would be the favourite for the job. What I was a little bit surprised was the people that are with him. Not surprised, and I must say for a start that even though it was only announced, a lot of people have been expressing a lot of I suppose positivity about them. But what I meant by that, I didn't see this group coming together. So I'd imagine a lot of work and a lot of negotiations went into put it in place. Barry Courtney from Éireog, now many of you may not know him, but he was involved with the Cork under-20 team, and as far as I know, he's a life coach, so I'd imagine that he'll be involved in a little bit on the sports psychology side of it. James Lockley was a complete surprise to me. This is the man who played football with Antrim, transferred down to Mallow, and then played for Cork for a number of years, and a great-hearted player he was, and a good footballer. Interestingly enough, I think he's gone back. Well, I don't think he's gone back, but he goes up to Antrim to play a bit of football with his club up there. But I'd imagine now he's very much a Cork individual, if you like, in that sense. So he'll bring his own experience to it, you know, a guy who was playing the game up to recently. Then Des Cullinan from St. Nick's, who has a lot of administrative experience, has been involved in a lot of committees, both at Cork County Board level and Croke Park. And I think his expertise will be around the administration area of it. No, I don't know any of this. I'm just assuming, if you wish. Micheál Cronin from Ballybona, who in his day was the best club footballer that probably I've ever seen, an incredible player, but he's been involved with the Cork under-20 team with Keith Ricken, so I'd imagine that's where the connection was there. And then the biggest surprise of the whole lot was that Ray Keane, who's Peter Keane's brother, played football for St. Mary's, and you may remember a couple of years ago he was involved with the Bears when they won the county. Well, he was the coach of that team. He now operates a food outlet, a supermarket down in Clonakilty, an incredibly busy man. So that's kind of what surprised me there. But sure, he's going to bring experience. He knows a lot about Gaelic football. And then the final piece of the jigsaw was the appointment of John Cleary from Castlehaven as the football coach. And I've been a little confused for many years about the role of the management, the manager and the role of the coach, and to know who's the more important. Well, they're all important. And you know, when John Cleary, and a couple of weeks ago we were talking about him when he couldn't get the job as managing the ladies football team. Well, he's now in here as coach. He's well known for his playing prowess, winning All Ireland medal with Cork, huge history of coaching with Cork teams, success at All Ireland level with under-21 teams, and with his club Castlehaven. So all in all, I think that you know, and I haven't been talking to many people about this now, to be honest, but the few people I have, they've you know, they're pretty delighted that this team has been put in place, and you know, that will raise the profile of football. People start talking about the Cork football team as well, and hopefully now they'll go with a positive style of play. You know, and we don't know what kind of a competition they'll be playing in yet, because they haven't, you know, the decision, the special Congress coming up shortly to decide what format then the county will take place. So all in all, the very best of luck to those people, all volunteers who've stepped up to the plate to do their bit for Cork football. And yeah, all very good people, and you know, well done to the group of people that selected them as well. That wasn't an easy task, because I'd imagine there was a lot of toing and froing, and for those people who put their name into the ring and maybe weren't successful on this occasion, well done to them as well. Anyway, that's that. So now we move on to talk about what's going to be happening on the field of play this weekend. And after last weekend's hurling action, which was incredible, the 30 games, back to football. Now, it's slightly different in football in that there are 4 championships rather than 5. But the 4th championship of football, which is called the Intermediate A Football Championship, has 16 teams in it. I'll be talking a little about that later on. So anyway, there are 26 matches. This is just now in the Cork County 4-county championships. Featuring 52 teams, and would you believe that 75% of those teams, in all 39 of them, have a chance of making the qualifying stage, and that itself is incredible. And whatever about last week when it came down to scoring difference, the team that had the most points scored, it would scoring differences and all of that even make more of a difference, I think, in football, because you know there's lower scoring by consequence. So we're going to start by talking about them in the order in which the matches will occur. You know, we're going to start with the games on Saturday evening, and that's the Intermediate A football team. And this is an incredible championship, 16 teams divided into 4 groups of 4, and the top 2 teams from each group will qualify for the quarterfinals. There's no getting straight through to semi-finals here. So in Group A, we're going to have Ahabulloch taking on Glanmire, and this is a chance for Tomás O'Shea. Remember, he took over Glanmire, and they had a big win in the first round, but was it a false dawn, I wonder, because they lost the next day out, and they have to win now against Ahabulloch. I kind of fancy Ahabulloch. That game, all these games go on Saturday evening at 4 o'clock. That game goes on in Ballyanley. In the same group, Mitchelstown take on Kildare, and Kildare have the worst scoring difference. They won't like us to remind them of that. A mighty 44 points, minus 44, and they've yet to get a point on the board. So they take on Mitchelstown in Araglin, and I think Mitchelstown will, like they won the county final last year, and after a slow start, I think they'll be the team fancied there. In Group B, we've Kilshannig top of the group. They play Adrigole and Castleton Kenna. No, you'd have to fancy Kilshannig in that group, and you know, Adrigole, if you like, got their win, which should take them out of the relegation trouble. The other game there in Fermoy is Glenworth versus Glenville, and Glenville are the team in trouble there on 0 points, so they will want to win to avoid being drawn into the relegation. By the way, the 2 lowest teams of the 4 at the bottom will be in the relegation final. In Group C, you have the all-conquering Evelera, since they won the County Junior Football Championship a couple of weeks ago. They play Kinsale and Brinny, and Kinsale are at the bottom, and I think they'll be at the bottom again. Because I'd imagine Evelera like are buoyed up by, you know, like they're winning their 2 matches after winning the county final. St. Finbarrs and Mill Street may be hard enough to call this, but I would imagine Mill Street will get that nod in Macroom. And finally, in the last group, this is the most incredible group of all the groups, whether they be hurling or football, that all teams in it are exactly the same in terms of they've all won a match and lost a match. This has not happened before, as far as I can gather. And Gable Rangers take on Drumtariff and Kilmichael. Honestly, I don't know. Drumtariff are involved in hurling as well, so it's so hard to call that. And I'm going to say the same about Ballinora and Ballydesmond. If I was forced into a corner, I'd go for the Duhala double there, but I'm not. Don't hold me to that. But what's even more important is that the for Kildare, Glenville and Kinsale, 2 of those 3 I think will be in the relegation final. So it's a hugely important weekend for all of those clubs. Then at 7:30 we go to the Premier Intermediate Football on Saturday evening, and again some great matches. Now the first group, it has more or less been decided. Kantucker play Nevervaughan and Mallow, and they're playing only for first or second. Whereas the other 2 teams in this group, Macroom versus St. Nick's, it's avoiding relegation. They can't qualify. That game goes on in Ovens, and you know, St. Nick's, who came down last year, they'll be under pressure here to survive as well against Macroom. And Macroom will not fancy themselves to be in this stage, you know, at this state of this competition, so I think they'll probably win that. Kilnamartyr and St. Vincent's, you'd imagine, move on now to Group B. Kilnamartyr and St. Vincent's and Páirc Uí Rinn, I'd imagine Kilnamartyr, you know, they will be the favourites and we should win that one. Nemo Rangers, Rockchapel are the county Intermediate A football champions. You remember they had their great win over Mitchelstown. They play Nemo Rangers. that's a difficult one to call, but you know, because you might be taking me seriously, I'm going to go for Nemo Rangers and that. And then in the last group in the Premier Intermediate Football, the big game is, well, they're all big games. You've had to take on the Piercing, and all teams here can qualify as well. So I'd imagine maybe Aheda will get the slight nod there. I know Martin Castonbear in the Aheda and the Piercing game is on in Carrigtwohill. And Newmarket and Castonbear on in Dunmanway. I don't know whether people from Newmarket have ever been in Dunmanway, but maybe they'd hang around after the match and enjoy the hospitality of that town. Will they beat Castonbear? That'll be a real close one, I would suggest. And then on Sunday we have the two seniors. The Premier Senior games are on at 2 o'clock and the Senior are at 4 o'clock. And the first group is the group involving Douglas Nemo Rangers, Valley Rovers and Carrigaline. Now Carrigaline are here to avoid relegation. They've no match won, they've lost their 2 matches, they're minus 33 points. And themselves and Island Rovers in the Premier Senior football would be considered the favourites for the relegation final, but who knows, they can change that. Douglas and Nemo, well, is this Douglas's opportunity? They've won their 2 matches. Nemo Rangers lost their first game and did they come back with a bang? So that game is going to be massive in Porcupine. But this is a big day for Douglas, make no mistake about it. Valley Rovers and Carrigaline, very disappointed for Valley Rovers the last day out. They have no choice here, only go at Carrigaline, and not alone do they need to meet them, but they need to beat them, I would imagine, by a good number of points if they have to make the quarter-final stages. Group B, well, here we'll have the new Cork coach, John Cleary. He's involved with the coaching of Castlehaven. They take on Carbery Rangers. And Castlehaven, I think, are the team that are favourites to qualify for the one semi-final spot. And they not alone will be trying to beat Carbery Rangers, but they'll be trying to do what they did last year to Island Rovers, inflict a big score against them. Carbery Rangers have been a bit disappointing, obviously, to lose their 2 matches. But pride surely will come into place down there. That game goes on in Lip, Valley Rovers and Carrigaline in Ballinhassig, I should have said that. And Aerogan Newstown, winner takes all here. Both clubs involved in hurling. Aerogan gone out from that, but Newcestown, after their Lazarus-like comeback, if you like, last week against Killa, like every time they bring everything to a game. That game goes on in Kilmurray. So it goes without saying, it's a big game for both of them, but it was slight fancy for Aerogan there in that one. And then the final group, it's the 2 teams at top. Clonakilty playing St Finbarrs and Coachford. And I'll have to be honest, I didn't expect I'd be talking about Clonakilty being the top of the group, but they are. I don't think they'll qualify for the automatic semi-final spot, either of these two teams, the Bars or Clonakilty. I can't see them, whoever wins it, beating each other by too much. But the Bars have had a number of injuries all along. They're out of the hurling. Will that make an influence in it, a difference in it? Maybe it will. And finally, Ballincollig and Island Rovers go to Ballinacarica, and you can't see anything, only a Ballincollig win here. I know that there was a wedding, at least I was told there was a wedding down around the Island Rovers territory, and that might influence that game, but sometimes maybe after a wedding it'll be exactly flying. So that's the Premier scene of football, and God almighty, with one team going straight to semi-finals and the others to quarters, that there's so much, as I said, to play for. And the final action then, 4 o'clock, the curtain comes down on the group stages of the Cork football and indeed hurling championships when the Senior A takes place. And in Group A, what an incredible group this is. Bandon and Downey's meeting in Iskeen. Winner takes all here, nothing else will do. Ballingeary, O'Donoghue and Rossa, the same thing. And O'Donoghue and Rossa, I know, like Kevin Davis will be missing, and you know, when he went off in the last game, it obviously influenced them to a degree, so maybe Ballingeary had the chance here. Not agreed, John Finton Daly was one of the people in for the Cork Senior football job. Wasn't successful on this occasion. What should I say about that? Look, he got his chance, he was interviewed. Just because he didn't get it doesn't mean that, you know, he's in any way an inferior manager, an inferior coach. Is incredible in both. And it will be big. Well, though themselves and St Michael's, they're at top of the table clash. Basically, they're both kind of through to quarterfinals to see who's going to end up on top. That game is on in Atlanta, and both have won 2 matches each. Kishgame and Bishopstown, My God, Bishopstown, how they have fallen from grace. They're down at the bottom here, and they will want to get something out of this. They will want to avoid getting dragged into another relegation battle. And Kish game likewise, a bit disappointing. Beaten very much so the first day by Knocknagree. Very little winning between them, says St. Michael. So I think that's going to be a very good game in Carrigadrawood. And finally then, we have got Mallow playing Bantry, and Bantry are the team in trouble here. Mallow have won one and lost one. I think they will beat Bantry and Kilnamartyr. And finally, for mine, Clyde, these two kind of North Cork clubs have no choice, only go at it, because there's a quarter-final spot there available for whoever wins that one. We haven't visited the divisions at all yet, so I think now with things coming down the home straight, we'll call around and see what's happening. And we talk about football because seemingly the divisions have major improvements have taken place, and they're now linked in that they play football the same weekend as the Cork County Board play football matches, if you get that drift. So they're nearly, in some divisions it's quarter-finals, and we do hurling next week with football, and some divisions are at final stage. And the first one we mentioned, the first division we mentioned is Beara. There's no final down there. They have one junior football team, Orton only. So they'll be representing the county, and the county this year, just one team from the winners from each of the 8 divisions will go forward to the quarter-finals, which were fixed for Saturday and Sunday, the 6th and 7th of November. Imokilly, big improvement this year, the way their competitions will run, every team getting more than one match. They're down to final, Bride Rovers versus Cove, and that game goes on in Carrignamare Sunday at 3 o'clock. I fancied Cove here, and there's a lovely little situation developing. Well, two things: the Glenville team of 1995 that won both the county, and back then East Cork teams were winning counties, won the East Cork and the county are being honoured at half time. And also the man of the match will be presented with a special Eamon Ryan commemorative medal. Now, isn't that a real collector's piece? Eamon Ryan, the great coach of ladies football and many more things, an incredible man who departed and is now looking down at us from his heavenly home. Well, his family have donated this medal. I think that's a lovely little gesture there. Into Muskerry, they're down to quarter-finals, and the 4 quarter-finals will be played this weekend. One on Saturday between Ballincollig and Clondrahood. Ballincollig's second team, so I think Clondrahood would be there. Canavie and I was going to say St. Michael's, Kilmichael meet on Sunday. Canavie are one of the favourites for the championship. The other one are Kilmurray, who play a Hina on Sunday, and the fact that Kilmurray and Canavie are kept apart, they may get to the final. And the other semi-final is Aero versus Gwinnett. By the way, Gwinnett had a great win last night over in Escarra. So that's the case in the Duhallow division. That's the case in Muskerry division. In Duhallow, they're down to semi-finals this weekend. Boherbue going for 5 in a row. No, they won't mind me saying this, but they'd prefer if they weren't, because it would mean that they were gone up into the next grade. They play Castlemagner and Cullen play Loyer, and I think it's going to be a repeat of last year's final between Boherbue and Cullen. In the Southeast Division, the City Division first, and they are at semi-final. And incredibly here, there's no first team involved in the semi-finals. There are 3 second teams and 1 third team. Bishopstown play St. Michael's on Saturday. They're their 2 second teams, and the other semi-final is on Sunday between Douglas and Nemo Rangers. And like they meet, I presume it is on in the morning, because at 2 o'clock those 2 teams meet in the Premier Senior Football Championship as well. But it's a bit unusual. Is it healthy or otherwise that it's third teams? Well, I'm not too sure, but that's the way it is. If in Avondhu semi-final weekend and Charleville play Kilworth, they're kind of obviously better known as hurling clubs. I'd fancy Charleville there, and Butterfin and Ballyhooly, even though that somebody tell me that Ballyhooly, who I don't know an awful lot about in terms of footballing prowess, that they beat Butterfin in some group stage by a point, but I'd still imagine I would fancy Butterfin, and if not, I think, that it would be a bit of a fall from grace for Butterfin, because they did great work there for a couple of years at underage level. And in Carrickdown, it's final day, 4 o'clock in Shanbally, and it's the meeting of the parishioners, Ballinhassig and Ballygarvan. Hurling is the first game in both of those, but They do play football, and I think it is improving in both clubs. Now, last weekend, Ballygavin were one of the teams I didn't think were going to progress in the lower intermediate hurling championship. They caused a big shock with a 5-point win over one of the favourites, St. Catherine's. So maybe that's going to buy them up. Ballinasig, who lost their hurling last week and have a quarter-final next weekend. But anyway, it's going to be a big day for both of them, and hopefully that that both clubs will embrace it big time, as they should. And finally, in the southeast or the southwest, they're down to 3 quarter-finals, and the big one is tied McCorricks and Bandon. And of course, I should have mentioned earlier, Cork Keane, who plays football with Newcestown and trains Cork, will be missing after heading off back out to Australia with his wife Breed Stack to play Aussie rules football. Breed is playing it, not Cork. So Tide McCorrick play Bandon, and the winners then play Carbery Rangers in the semi-final. Clonakilty play Kilbrittain. Now, I'm not too sure in Kilbrittain, have they a separate hurling and football team? I should have checked that for you. And finally, Barry Rowe will play St. Mary's, and St. Mary's doing really well. They're in the hurling final against Ballinascarty, and St. Mary's club, I think, have been improving a lot in the last couple of years. So that's our brief look at what's happening in divisions. And then we move to Camogie, and we have the 2 senior semi-finals this weekend. And the only surprise package, if you wish, is that the Shandoon divisional team got over St. Catherine's last week, and they will play this game. Now, both of them are on Saturday in Castle Road. The 2 semi-finals of St. Finbarrs versus Enniscarra at 1:15 and at 4:15, then we have Sarsfield versus Shandoon. Now, I'd imagine the Bears and Sars will win it. I'm not too sure about Shandoon, because some of their players from St. Vincent's are supposed to be playing a big championship, playing a big junior championship game on Sunday. Will they be available? Hopefully they will. The intermediate championship is down to semi-finals as well. The home straight now and everything. And I'd imagine that Father O'Neill's, that game is also on Saturday. Those 2 games are also on Saturday. Father O'Neill's taking on Blackrock. I'd imagine Father O'Neill's would be the favourites there. And Clonakilty and Ahabullock. I'd be going for Ahabullock. The Father O'Neill's Blackrock game going on in the Pearshie Ground at 12 o'clock and at 3 o'clock in Clodagh for the other one. And then in the junior, you have a replay between Charleville and St. Vincent's in the quarter-final of the Junior Hurling Championship, Junior Camogie Championship. So that's the big one for obviously both of those. St. Vincent's, who've been trying to win this for donkeys of years, have yet to do so. And the other semi-final was Slight Fancy from Mallow, for Ballinora versus Mallow. Moving to ladies football, and again, crystallisation time is happening here in that the senior football, there's one big game this weekend between Inch and Mournaby. Now, Mournaby will probably win it, but once Inch don't lose by more than 8 or 9 points, they should qualify as a runners-up in that group. And if they do, the second group is sorted, and that Aoch have topped it, and Kinsale are in second place. So it looks now right that it's going to be Mournaby versus Kinsale. Am I right in that? And Aoch versus Inch Rovers. Now, if Inch Rovers were to get a hammering on that game on Sunday, it would mean that Bride Rovers would get the semi-final spot. And finally, in ladies football, there's 2 intermediate semi-finals. Also on Sunday, Glanmire taking on Ross Carbery. I think that Glanmire would be the favourites there. And Very Rovers taking on Araglin Desmond's Bui. That game goes on in Boherbue at 4 o'clock. Valleys, after winning last year's Junior County, should win that one. And the game between Glanmire and Ross Ladies on in Glanmire at 4 o'clock. So basically that's a look at mostly the Gaelic games. Then onto the world of soccer, and what an incredible couple of days. Remember last week we were talking about Callum Robinson and he getting grief all over the place over the disclosure about his vaccination status. No, at the time I said, I don't know what's that getting to do with anything. You know, 'tis his own business, and the fact, anyway, we'll move then. But what a week is. They beat Azerbaijan, which is the World Cup qualifier. No, it's not going to get him into the World Cup, but he got 2 goals in that. And Chindozi getting the other goal, the Nemo Rangers player. Then they had the friendly against Qatar on Tuesday, and then was it 23,000 turned up at the Aviva, a massive occasion, and again Robinson getting 3 goals. Shane Duffy getting his 6th goal for Ireland. This has really energised the whole soccer following, and they now play. They have 2 matches left. They play Thursday, the 11th of November against Portugal in a packed Aviva, and Portugal will be going for the automatic spot to get through to the World Cup. So it's going to be a big game, and Cristiano Ronaldo will obviously be there. And of course, then Tuesday or Sunday, the 14th of November, they take on Luxembourg away. So those 2 games, if you like, are going to. Will they decide it? Well, I think they're going to do well, and it augurs well for what was a disaster earlier on for the Irish soccer team, because so many people associate with this team, and it's good for the country when they are doing well. So obviously things are going well there. And then finally we go to the Premier League action this weekend. Liverpool play Watford, and after their draw before the break, they drew 2-2 with City. They'll be expected that Manchester United, and this Premier League won't be too long on when Ole will be under pressure once again. They play Burnley. Remember, they had a draw with Everton the last day out. Chelsea are away to Brentford. They should win that one. Everton, who are doing well this season, are at home to West Ham. And of course, Newcastle, the team that reckon they got their club back despite the fact that they sold it to a really dodgy crowd of Saudis. It means that Mike Ashley, the man who's involved with Sports Direct and sponsor Cork, that he's gone. So it'll be interesting, and I know there's an awful lot of talk about all of that scenario, about these questionable states coming in and buying sports franchises. It's kind of like money cleansing, it's not money laundering, it's money respectability-itis, you could call it if you wish. And finally, before we bid our farewell, the Munster Rugby team, which has had a great start, winning 3 games in the United Rugby Championship. This is where there's the, you have what are they? 4 Welsh, 4 Irish, 4 South African, and then you have the 2 Scottish and the 2 Italian teams together. Well, the first derby takes place this weekend. It's on Saturday night in Thomond Park. We have Munster take on Connacht, and Munster will be probably favourites thereafter. It has been a good start for them. So once again, thanks for your company, and until the next time, take care.